All right, welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going to be tackling a request, a deep dive that a lot of you have been asking for. We're going back to Twilight.
Yeah.
But, and this is a big but, we're not talking about Bella, Edward, or Jacob. Nope. This time around, we're going to shine the spotlight on a character that often gets, well, kind of overlooked, Embry Call.
Interesting choice.
Yeah, Embry might not be the most flashy character in the saga, but trust me, his story adds a whole new layer of complexity to this world. And you guys seem to agree, judging by all the requests we got. So are you ready to unravel the mystery of Embry Call?
I am. I've always thought that Twilight, while famous for its, central romance, also had these really fascinating supporting characters like Embry who give you a glimpse into something deeper, like the Quileute community, their traditions, the whole pack dynamic. It's really fascinating.
Absolutely. Okay, so first things first, who is Embry Call? He's a Quileute shapeshifter, best friends of Jacob Black, part of that core werewolf pack. But, and here's the big mystery, we never actually find out for sure who his father is.
Yeah, that's the big question mark hanging over him, isn't it?
Right. And it's not just some random piece of trivia. It has major implications for the entire story. We know his mom is Quileute, which means for Embry to have inherited the werewolf gene, his dad has to be Quileute too. And that narrows down the possibilities to, well, let's just say a handful of people within a very tight-knit community.
Yeah, and the books give us a few potential candidates, right? We're talking Billy Black, Quileute Sr., maybe even Joshua Yulee.
Exactly. And each one would throw the whole pack dynamic into chaos. Imagine the drama if it turned out Embry was, say, Billy Black's son. That would make him Jacob's brother. Or if his dad was Quileute Sr., it would completely change his relationship with, well, everyone.
I think Stephenie Meyer, the author, really played with that ambiguity on purpose. It's not just gossip, it ties into those core themes of the story. The pack is all about loyalty, unity, family. But this unresolved question about Embry's parentage suggests that there are secrets, maybe even betrayals, within those very families. It makes you wonder, can you really have true unity without complete transparency?
It's like this ticking time bomb just waiting to go off. And it's easy to picture Embry in the middle of all this. The books describe him as, lean with copper skin and short black hair. His wolf form is gray with these darker patches, which I always thought was a cool detail. But it's that unknown element about his family that really adds depth to his character.
Absolutely. And I think that's part of what makes him so relatable to readers, especially teenagers. A lot of teen characters in fiction are grappling with that who am I question, but with Embry, it's almost literal. He's physically changing, becoming this powerful creature, while also trying to figure out where he fits in, who he truly is,
Right.
and not knowing half of his lineage makes that search for identity even more complicated.
It's like his very existence is a question mark.
Uh-huh.
But here's the thing. Despite this huge mystery hanging over his head, Embry is solid. He's described as like a quiet pillar of strength, fiercely loyal to his friends, especially Jacob. And you really see that loyalty play out when Jacob breaks away from Sam's pack into Eclipse. Embry doesn't hesitate. He goes with them.
Right, and that decision speaks volumes about his character.
Doubly.
It challenges that idea of pack unity, meaning blind obedience. Embry clearly values loyalty, but his choice to follow Jacob suggests he believes in individual conscience, too. It makes you ask, when is it okay to dissent, even when it risks fracturing the group you belong to? And I think that's a question a lot of readers connect with. Thinking about groups you're a part of, have you ever faced a choice where loyalty to a cause maybe clashed with your own personal beliefs?
It's a really thought-provoking question, isn't it? And it makes you realize how much depth there is to these characters, even the ones who aren't always front and center. And speaking of those deeper layers, I think it's time we delve into some of those key scenes, those pivotal moments in Embry's story where his character really shines through, like his first appearance in New Moon.
Oh, definitely. That's a great place to start. Okay, so New Moon, right? Where we first meet Embry. It might seem like a pretty simple scene at first, just three friends hanging out, but it actually lays the groundwork for Embry's whole arc, I think.
Yeah, it starts out so normal. Embry, Quill, Jacob just being teenagers goofing off, and then bam, Jacob starts changing, and their whole world gets turned upside down. It's interesting how each of them reacts to that, to that sudden shift.
Totally. You've got Quill, who's like super resistant, almost in denial about what's happening to Jacob, but Embry, he's different. He doesn't freak out. He doesn't question it. He just accepts it. It's almost instinctive, like he understands on some level what Jacob's going through, even before anyone explains anything about werewolves.
Yeah, it's subtle, but it almost foreshadows his own transformation later on. Like he senses it coming, even before it happens to him.
Right. And you got to remember, in this world, they're all going to be sharing thoughts telepathically soon. So Embry's quiet observation, it says a lot. It shows this like introspection, this willingness to just absorb information before reacting, which I think sets him apart from some of the other pack members.
He's always watching, taking it all in.
Yeah.
Which makes sense when you consider he's also dealing with his own identity crisis on top of everything else, not knowing who his dad is, going through these physical changes.
Oh, absolutely. It all ties into that struggle for belonging we talked about earlier. He's literally changing, becoming this, powerful creature, but he's also trying to figure out where he fits in the pack, in the world, and not knowing half of his lineage. Yeah, that just makes that whole search for identity even more complicated.
And then, of course, things get even more intense in Eclipse. We've got Jacob breaking away from Sam, forming his own pack, and Embry follows him without hesitation. It's a huge turning point for both of them, for their friendship.
It really is. And it's such a good example of how Stephanie Meyer takes these like seemingly small choices and uses them to explore these huge themes. On the surface, it's about loyalty to a friend, right? But when you dig deeper, it makes you think about authority, about when it's okay to question the status quo, even when it means risking fracturing a group you care about. It's powerful stuff.
It takes guts to stand up for what you believe in, especially when everyone's telling you you're wrong. And Embry does it so quietly, without making a big deal about it. It's almost more powerful that way.
I agree. And it really makes the reader think about the limits of loyalty. Is it blind obedience? Or is there room for individual conscience, even within a group as tight-knit as the pack? And it's something we can all relate to, right? I mean, haven't we all had to figure out how to balance those things in our own lives? With family, friends, even at work?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's what makes Embry such a relatable character. Even though he's a werewolf, his struggles are so universal. He's trying to figure out who he is, where he belongs, what he believes in, and he's doing it while dealing with these intense relationships and this supernatural world that's constantly throwing crazy stuff at him.
Definitely. And then you've got Breaking Dawn. Talk about raising the stakes. The Volturi show up, threatening the entire Quileute community. And Embry's faced with another impossible choice.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one. At first, he stays with Jacob's pack, right? But then, when he realizes how serious the threat is, he ends up rejoining the larger pack to fight alongside them.
Which is a huge moment of growth for him, I think. He realizes that sometimes personal feelings have to take a back seat to the greater good. He puts aside his loyalty to Jacob, at least temporarily, to protect everyone, the whole community.
It shows how much he's matured since New Moon. He's not just reacting to the situation anymore. He's thinking strategically, considering the bigger picture. He's become a real leader, even if he doesn't always want the spotlight.
And it's that quiet leadership that makes him so compelling, I think. He's not the loudest voice, but his actions, they inspire others. He shows that real strength comes from understanding, from making those tough choices for the good of the group, not just, barking orders or whatever.
It makes you think about all the Embry calls out there in the real world, those people who work behind the scenes. Maybe they're not the most vocal, but they keep things running. They offer support without needing recognition. They're like the unsung heroes of every group, every community.
That's a great way to put it. And it's something we don't always appreciate, right? We tend to focus on the flashy leaders, the ones who are always front and center. But Embry reminds us that there's so much strength in quiet observation, in careful consideration, in putting others first.
Yeah, it's a powerful message, especially these days when it feels like everyone's trying to be the loudest voice in the room. Embry shows us there's another way to lead, another way to be strong, another way to make a difference.
Okay, so we've talked about Embry's actions, his choices. But there's another layer to him that we should explore, his connection to those deeper themes in Twilight. And I'm not just talking about the werewolf stuff.
Oh, for sure. We touched on his identity struggles, his loyalty to Jacob. But there's more there, right? Something about his quiet nature, his connection to his heritage.
Exactly. Embry's story is so intertwined with those themes of cultural heritage, the weight of tradition, the power of quiet strength. He's not just a shapeshifter, He's a symbol of how we all deal with the legacies we inherit and the choices we make in shaping our own destinies. It's pretty deep stuff.
I love how his Quileute heritage adds this whole other dimension to his stories. Not just some random backstory element. It informs his values, his sense of responsibility, like his whole way of being in the world.
Absolutely. That werewolf gene is passed down through generations, so he's connected to this long line of ancestors, this rich tapestry of stories and traditions. It's a constant reminder that we're all part of something bigger than ourselves, that our choices have ripple effects that go way beyond our immediate circle.
It's like he's carrying the weight of history on his shoulders, but he never complains about it. He just quietly accepts it, embraces it, which is pretty amazing when you think about it.
And that quiet acceptance, it really speaks volumes about his character. He doesn't need recognition or praise. He just does what he believes is right, what's expected of him, what honors his heritage. It's a powerful lesson in humility and responsibility.
It makes you think about your own heritage. What traditions did you inherit from your family, your community, and how have those traditions shaped you, your values, your choices, your sense of who you are?
It's a good question to think about, because whether we realize it or not, we all carry those pieces of the past with us. And like Embry, we get to decide how those pieces inform who we are and who we choose to become. Pretty powerful stuff, right?
It's crazy, right? He's got this like inherited legacy thing going on, but then there's this giant question mark hanging over his own origin story.
Yeah, it's like Stephenie Meyer gave us this puzzle and was like, okay, figure this out.
Have fun with it.
Right. Exactly. And the fans have totally run with it. There's so much fan fiction, so many theories out there exploring all the different possibilities. Like, who could Embry's dad be? Each option adds a whole new layer to his character, not to mention what it would do to the pack dynamic.
It's like a choose your own adventure, Twilight edition.
Yeah.
What if it's Billy Black? What if it's Quileute Sr.?
Oh, man. Imagine if Embry turned out to be Billy Black's son.
Ooh.
It would completely change everything, right? Suddenly, Jacob and Embry aren't just best friends, they're brothers. And how would Billy deal with that, with the pack's whole code of conduct and everything?
It would be huge. Talk about a bombshell.
And the ripple effects would be insane. It wouldn't just affect them, it would impact the entire pack, their hierarchy, their relationships with the Cullens.
Total chaos.
It shows how interconnected their world really is, One little piece of information, one family secret, could completely upend everything. I think it's really impressive how Stephenie Meyer created such a complex web of relationships. Even with characters who aren't always in the spotlight, their stories matter.
It makes you wonder, did she ever plan to reveal Embry's parentage? Or was it always meant to be this open question?
Who knows? Maybe she liked the idea of letting fans come up with their own answers, letting them be part of the story.
It definitely keeps things interesting. Even all these years later, people are still debating it.
I think it's a brilliant move, honestly. It keeps the conversation going. It lets readers fill in the blanks, come up with their own versions of the truth. It's like the power of leaving some things unsaid, embracing the mystery.
Well, I think it's safe to say we've covered a lot of ground today. We've gone deep on Embry Call. And I think we can all agree he's way more than just some background character. He's complex. He's got all this stuff going on with identity and loyalty, and he's carrying the weight of his heritage. He's a quiet leader, the kind who inspires through action, not just words.
I totally agree. He's a reminder that even the seemingly minor characters can have a huge impact on a story and on us as readers. They can make us think about things in a different way, challenge our assumptions, inspire us to be better people.
I think Embry's story also reminds us that sometimes the quietest voices are the ones with the most important things to say.
Yeah, that's a good takeaway. And, as you go back and read Twilight, or even just you go about your day, think about Embry. Look for those quiet characters, the ones who are observing, listening, supporting, without needing a pat on the back. You might be surprised at what you find.
Great advice. Well, that's it for our deep dive on Embry Call. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back soon with another episode, exploring another character you might have missed. Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deeper into the stories that make us think.